City's Parks Department is planning to redevelop an historic park in downtown Calgary. Century Gardens is just south of the 7th Street LRT stop. You know it, it's that iconic 70s-style park beside the Nexon building. The city claims the park is showing its age and is in dire need of repair. Now it's considering the possibilities, one of which would be just bulldozing it. This has some heritage advocates worried about the future of the park. Cynthia Klaassen is the president of the Calgary Heritage Initiative, and she joins me now in studio. Good morning.
Good morning, David.
Thank you for coming in. For those who might not know know Century Gardens, can you describe what it currently looks like?
Sure. Century Gardens was built in 1975, and it's on the north side of 8th Avenue, right at 8th Street. And there's a large concrete structure on the corner, which resembles mountains. And out of the mountains flow the waterfalls, which flow east into a small pool.
It's like the Bow River flows into the pool. That was the idea, right? Just grab a little bit of Western landscape and immortalize it in concrete.
It's like Alberta comes to the city.
Okay. Why, in your mind, is it historically significant?
This is a very unique park. It's was built in the 1970s, as I mentioned, and it was built with money from the Devonian Foundation. So Devonian Gardens, which many people know in the core, is a similar kind of park. So it represents that kind of history of Calgary. It's also a very unique kind of park representing that 70s, what we call brutalist style. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, as we're learning, it's quite unique globally, too.
And anyone's thinking, brutalist? What does that mean? Well, there's lots of examples of that here in Calgary. Think of the planetarium, for example, the old planetarium. Anyway, that's brutalist architecture at its most pronounced.
Yes.
Lots of slab concrete. You'd also see it. I mean, if you can go to London, England, and it's all the rage again there. Mm-hmm. We're just sort of catching up. So, is it part of Calgary's heritage inventory?
It is. It is on the heritage inventory. So, it does have heritage significance to the city.
So what are some of the reasons the city's giving for redeveloping Century Gardens?
Well, as you mentioned, David, it is starting to show its age, so it does need some sprucing up. There are spruce trees on site too. But there's also a new development proposed for the north side of the park. So that also has provided some impetus to redevelop the park. As well, there are concerns locally of safety issues within the park.
What's the safety issue?
I believe it's related to some of the other activities that go on in the neighborhood, and a lot of people feel unsafe walking through the park at night.
You and I can talk about brutalist architecture and the fact that some people value it, but you've surely heard from others who say, look, it's retro and not in a good way. Why save it?
Oh, yes. Well, I think it is a very unique park, and it's a really interesting style of architecture. I've never really seen a park quite like this. Mm-hmm. And we're rapidly losing, of course, this 70s style of architecture. And being a park, it's incredibly unique. And I think Calgarians should see it as something of value.
Yeah, we're losing beer chip stucco bungalows too. But
yes.
Not a lot of people are waving their fists around that. Mm-hmm. Some are, I might add, but not everyone. I'm still not getting the case. Why do we need to save this thing?
Well, it's, it is on the heritage inventory. So it is of heritage significance to the city. And I think for us in the heritage community, we're actually quite surprised that the city is so ready to just change it into something new. It was called Century Gardens because it honored the 100th anniversary of the establishment of Calgary. So if it turns into something new, will it still be Century Gardens? You're
not alone on this. You never know where your allies are going to come from in these kinds of cases. Steve Nagy is active in Calgary's Parkour community. That's that sport where people climb and jump and flip off of different pieces of urban environment, shall we say, for fun. Here's what he told the Eyeopener about Century Gardens.
There are these wonderful precast concrete pillars that give a number of different sides to them and different elevations and distances between the different pillars that allow us these wonderful jumping maneuvers. People may be surprised to know that Century Gardens is actually becoming this world-renowned location. It's showing up in many, many videos online, and we've had teams that have come from France and Russia, the Philippines, all over the world, because the structures are so amazing for different types of movement.
Now, that's something I wouldn't have guessed. No, this is not a 70s eyesore. This is a cutting-edge parkour playground. Does that help your case?
I hope so.
I hope so is the only way to look at it. I mean, these are unexpected allies.
Yeah.
And working together. Do you think the city's going to listen?
Yeah, I think so. Certainly the largest, I think the most significant voices that were heard at a recent meeting were those from the heritage community and the parkour community, too.
Mm-hmm. So how do you push this ball forward? Who do you need to get on board?
Well, we need to talk to more folks at the city and get the city on board. This is a city-led project, the redevelopment of the park. Mm-hmm. So I see us as continuing to work with the city. And the city has had several stakeholder engagements a couple of years ago, too, where it was noted that retaining the current water features is one of the key things to do. So I was quite surprised to see that those were not in the current plans.
I'm going to go check out the park. I think a lot of people hearing this today are going to go, wait a minute, I got to take a closer look at that place. Maybe that's part of what this is all about.
I think so. Just getting more people in the park, using the park, and enjoying the park.
If you haven't been there, it's on the south side of 7th Street, or of the 7th Street LRT stop, right next to the Nexon building. So you can find it. Cynthia, thanks so much for coming and talking about this. That's Cynthia Klaassen. She's the president of the Calgary Heritage Initiative.